Hello, YouTube land, and welcome to another edition of Putting It Back on the Table, a Renee James production. Family, it's time to fasten those seatbelts for a thrilling adventure of home cooking, featuring culinary instructor Derek J. Snyder. I'm your host, D. Schneid, and tonight the table presents...
Brown Chicken Stock Part 1 Introduction.
Hello, YouTube land. Today we're making stocks. Next to knowledge and ability, they are probably the most important items for a good cook or chef to have readily available in the kitchen. They are more of a tool than a food if you think about it. You need them in order to create some of the most wonderfully tasting spoonfuls that will ever present themselves upon your buds. And the better the stock is made, the more savory that smack will be. So let's take a minute and talk about from hence the art of stock making has come from. It's impossible to put a face or name to just one person who could be said to have created the first stock, since it comes from the leftover juices of braised or poached meat, and man has been cooking meat in liquid in order to tenderize it for much longer than his doing so has been recorded. Who knows how many years had gone by with someone melding that liquid gold in order to pour it back over the shoulder from whence it came as a sauce, or to save it and later stew or roast with it. It's quite possible someone had left it on the fire too long and saw how simply gorgeous it became after reduced, making what is known today as a modern demi, without even realizing it. What I can say is that there's one man who first wrote the book on it, and his name was Marie-Antoine Carême, a French nobleman from the 18th century, also known as the father of cooking. He showed the world the meaning of culinary and French cuisine. Then Escoffier showed us a more efficient version of preparation and application, but that's a story for another day. Now, Carême cooked for a king and kings and all the king's men and subjects, meaning he had to think about how to feed hundreds of people at a time. Luckily, working for royalty meant money was no object, giving him the freedom to do whatever he felt was worth the outcome. Carême would simmer cauldrons of beef and bones and chicken with various root vegetables and herbs for days until the end product was just what he was looking for. Knowing from experience the best items were those to use with connective tissue and lots of marrow, Carême understood it was the breaking down of these materials that contributed to the most intense of flavors, not to mention a luscious, thick gelatin structure that would form after it cooled. Carême made art of stock with the additions of starches and fats and herbs and aromatics in order to create a few of the mother sauces such as velouté or espagnole, in which many sauces and soups we indulge in have spawned from even today. Do you like chicken pot pies? How about French onion soup? Well, now you know where that scrumptiously soothing, rich and velvety sauce or broth that makes those dishes just taste so darn good comes from. If you tried to make them using some good old tap water, you might as well serve them to those mangy dogs lurking in the back alley. Some chicken noodle boy? You're not affected by salmonella now then, are you? Enough of my jibber-jabbering, let's get started, shall we?
Brown Chicken Stock Part 2 The Ingredients List.
Some Thyme Sprigs, some Parsley stems, bay leaf, some cloves, some garlic, a celery, some mushroom, a carrot, an onion, some olive oil, some white wine, and some chicken.
Brown Chicken Stock Part 3 The Preparation.
So stock is super easy to make, and so is the prep. I'm not even going to waste my time going through each of the items with you. Just watch and see how I cut them into larger than stew-sized pieces. You want to keep them big since this will cook for 8 to 10 hours minimum, and you don't want them to break down too fast. Ta-da! All done. Wow, that was hard.
Brown Chicken Stock Part 4 The Cooking.
Start by heating your pot and adding some oil. Cooking brown stock, whether it's beef or chicken, is going to involve a little pre-cooking of the vegetables and the meat in order to bring out the caramelization of the Maillard effect we want for the brown color and deep flavor. First we want to brown up the mirepoix, so go ahead and add the carrots, the celery, and the onion. Leave the garlic and the mushrooms out for this part. Cook them down real good until they start to caramelize and get nice and brown. Now remove them and put them to the side. Next we want to brown up our chicken, so let's go ahead and add some oil back to the pan. As you can see here, I have a neck, I have a back that I chopped in half, and about 3 or 4 pounds of wings that I chopped in half to open the bones. I only want to brown up the meat on the wings so I don't end up overcrowding the pot. Make sure all the pieces sit on the bottom of the pot. If you have too much in there, all you do is end up sweating or stewing them and they won't brown as well. Give them a turn every few minutes to make sure they get brown on all sides. The browning of protein is called the Maillard effect, which is the sugars releasing to the surface of the protein and getting caramelized. Once all your meat is nice and brown, go ahead and pull it out of the pan. Next you want to degrease and deglaze the pot. Use a pair of tongs and a couple of paper towels and pat the bottom of the pot dry. Fat ruins stock, so you might as well get it out now while you can. Now pour about a half a cup of white wine into the pot and use it to bring up all the bits off the bottom. This is called deglazing, and the end product is called fond. You want to leave that fond in the pot. It's a concentration of all the flavors of the stuff that you just cooked in there. And you want to leave it in there because it really sets off the flavor of the stock. Now let's go ahead and build our pot. If we were doing white chicken stock, you would start here and forget all the pre-cooking for the browning. You might want to leave out the mushrooms and toss in some asparagus and maybe use a leek instead of celery. Add the backs to the bottom with the neck and pour the wings over the top of them. Then the mirepoix you just caramelized along with the mushrooms and the garlic. Now the herbs and cloves, and finally the water. Use cold water enough to cover all this by 2 inches. For my pot, that's right at about the rivets, which should be about 4 quarts of water total. Now bring it to a boil, then back it off to a simmer. Ideal would be anywhere between 190 and 200 degrees. Once you're at simmer, it's time to scrape off all the scum that is built up on top of the pot. Just use a big spoon and pull it off with some of the fat that's come up with it. You don't want that in the stock, it's just going to make it taste really bad and bitter. Now put a lid on it, cracked open on one side in order to vent, and let it cook for about 8 to 10 hours. You will have to check it every couple hours in order to scrape some more of the scum off and check your temperature, but whatever you do, don't stir it. Stirring it creates circulation that helps break down the vegetables, that makes your stock cloudy. You don't want a cloudy stock, so just leave it alone. I know it's going to be tempting. Don't do it. Now that the stock is done, we're going to strain it once to get all the chunks out of it by carefully pouring it through a strainer into a large bowl. Now strain it one ladle at a time through a fine mesh strainer lined with cheesecloth to be sure to get all the particles that might be floating around in it out. Once you have it all nice and strained, put it into a vessel or another pot that can hold it all and put it in the refrigerator and let it cool overnight. It's the next day, or at least 4 hours later, and all the fat has come to the top. Also, your stock should have turned into a jelly. Now what you want to do is scrape all that fat off the top by using a sharp spoon or spatula if you have one. Once you get all the fat off, you're done as far as stock goes. Mine was about 4 quarts or 8 pints or 16 cups, however you want to look at it. If you want from here, you can go ahead and store it in 2-cup portions in your freezer, like in a freezer bag, or even pour it into ice cube trays and separate it out that way. Now, this video is called Modern Demi, which means we're going to put it back on the stove and reduce it by 3/4 or down to 1 quart. Bring it up to a low simmer, nothing over 195 degrees, and let's reduce this down to the level we need. You need to do this carefully and stir it occasionally. There's a lot of animal protein in this and it will burn the closer you get. You'll find some fat will come to the top. You can get this off by taking a paper towel and just running it over quickly over the top. Now that it's reduced, I'm going to store it away in 1/2 cup portions. I started with 4 quarts, I took it down to 1 quart. Taking it down to 1/2 cup portions makes it a perfect size for me to use as a demi in a sauce for 2 to 3 people, or I could simply reconstitute it with 1.5 cups of water to bring it back to stock if I need it that way. If you've watched some of my other videos, you notice that I use chicken stock quite a bit, and it's usually in 2 or 3 cup portions. So this would be a perfect way to be able to learn how to make your own stock and have it ready to make other videos, not only mine, but other videos from YouTube or other recipes you might find online. Whatever the case may be, have fun with it.
Brown chicken stock, part 5, the final product.
Family, can I just say chicken noodle, polenta, savory bread pudding? How about couscous or risotto? Let's not leave out chicken dumplings or pot pie. How about something unconventional like stir fry? There are undoubtedly hundreds of ways to use this luscious, wholesome liquid made from the simple process of stewing animal parts that are not fit to be feasted upon, yet make the perfect candidates for the enhancement of just about anything you can conjure up that would very well call for some sort of liquid to cook or baste or be the key component in the transformation of the end product in which your delicate palate would forever adore. And let's not forget about that ambrosial bouquet that would fill your home, bearing thoughts of family and friends and wonderful creations to come. I'm Dee Schneid, and I'd like to thank you for joining us again in another edition of Putting It's Back on the Table. Goodbye, YouTube land.